Hello students, welcome to today's video lesson. Today we shall discuss a very interesting story by Jack Finney titled The Third Level. The Third Level is a science fiction which deals with a man who gives in to wishful thinking after being highly frustrated and unhappy with the world. It also explores the notion of time travel back to the past in order to enjoy its relaxing old world charm away from the modern world's complexities. Before we begin, let us learn a little about the writer, Jack Finney. Jack Finney was an American author born in the year 1911. He mostly wrote science fictions and thrillers, and some of his best works include Assault on a Queen, The Body Snatchers, Time and Again, and This Winter's Hobby, a Play. Let us now begin with the plot of the story. The narrator, 31-year-old Charlie, remarked at the outset that the presidents of the New York Central and the New York, New Haven and Hartford railroads would swear that there are 2 levels in the Grand Central Station of the Manhattan City, New York. However, the narrator was absolutely certain that there were 3. He had even visited the psychiatrist just to ensure that he was not going bonkers in his head. The psychiatrist told him that it was his wishful thinking or imagination of an escapist trying to look away from the sad situation of the world. However, Charlie was sure that his prognosis was wrong because everybody wanted to escape from the insecurity, sadness, hardship and wrongs of the world, but none had found a 3rd level in the Grand Central Station. The psychiatrist pointed out several other escapist habits of the narrator, like his stamp collection, which he saw as a temporary refuge from reality. The narrator reminded him that it was his father who had started the stamp collection, almost every US issue arranged in blocks of 4. Next, Charlie described how he had stumbled upon the 3rd level of the Grand Central Station on one night, the previous summer, while he had been returning from his office late at night. He had been hurrying back to his wife Louisa in their apartment uptown and had decided to take the subway. He had been dressed just like most other New Yorkers in a tan gabardine suit and a straw hat with a fancy band. He had turned left from Vanderbilt Avenue and had gone down the steps to the 1st level where one took trains like in the 20th century. Next, he had proceeded down another flight of stairs to the 2nd level from where the suburban trains left. Charlie narrated how he had bumped into several new doors and corridors on his way in and out of the Grand Central, which he had frequented 100 times or more. Once he had got into a mile-long tunnel and had exited in the lobby of the Roosevelt Hotel, and another time in the lobby of a hotel in 46th Street, 3 blocks away. Charlie sometimes thought that the Grand Central was growing like a tree, pushing out new corridors and staircases. He was of the opinion that perhaps because the Grand Central had been an escape or exit for several people over the years, that it had been extending its tunnels under the city till Central Park or Times Square. However, he had not shared this idea with his psychiatrist. Here's something to think about. Why do you think he refrained from sharing his idea of an ever-extending Grand Central with his psychiatrist? Next, Charlie had taken a corridor which had angled left and slanted downward. He had walked on, even though he had thought it to be a wrong turn. For a while, he had walked in silence, hearing only his footsteps. However, a little ahead, the tunnel turned left and he had gone down another short flight of stairs to the 3rd level at the Grand Central Station. For a few initial moments, the narrator had thought that he had reached back to the 2nd level, but he had noticed smaller rooms and fewer ticket windows and train gates. Moreover, the information booth in the center had been made of wood and looked old. The man in the booth had worn a green eye shade and long black sleeve protectors. The lights had been dim and flickering as they were from open flame gas lights. There had been brass spittoons on the floor, and across the station, a man had pulled out a gold watch from his vest pocket. Everyone in the 3rd level had been dressed like it was the 1890s, and the narrator had noticed several types of fancy mustaches and sideburns. He had noticed a woman dressed in a dress with leg-of-mutton sleeves and skirts to the top of her high-buttoned shoes. At the back of the woman, Charlie had noticed a very small Currier and Ives locomotive with a funnel-shaped stack. It had been then that he knew that he had somehow gone back in time. To be absolutely sure, he had checked the newspaper stack and had noticed the world, which hadn't been published in a long time in the present times. The newspaper's lead story had been about President Cleveland, and the narrator had later found the same front page later in the public library files, and it was printed June 11th, 1894. He had turned towards the ticket window, thinking he and Louisa could travel anywhere in the United States in the year 1894. He had wanted 2 tickets to Galesburg, Illinois. According to the narrator, Galesburg was a wonderful town with big old frame houses, large lawns and very large trees. Summers of 1894 in Galesburg were twice as long, and people sat out smoking cigars and talking quietly while women waved palm leaf fans. It was a peaceful world, and time when the world was still 20 years away from the First World War and the Second World War was 40 years away. Notice how the narrator has an old world picture in his mind. Times when the world had not yet been massacred by world wars and people scrambled for political power. However, Charlie had been refused by the ticket clerk as he had no old world currency. The clerk had even mistaken him to be a probable thief on seeing unusual modern-day cash in his hands. Charlie had escaped away from that place as he had not liked the idea of being jailed. The next day, Charlie withdrew $300 bills to exchange it for old-time currency in order to purchase his tickets to 1894 Galesburg. However, he could no longer find the third level at the Grand Central Station. His wife was highly disturbed at his new endeavors, and hence he went back to collecting stamps for a while. Soon, he and his wife were both looking for the third level at the Grand Central Station as their friend Sam Weiner had disappeared. Charlie was sure that Sam had gone back to 1894 Galesburg, as he had talked about Galesburg and how he went to school there as a child, and Sam had liked the idea of the place. Charlie was sure of Sam's whereabouts as one night, while fussing with his stamp collection, he came across a first-day cover that contained a letter from his friend Sam stating how he had found the third level and gone back to 1894's Galesburg. The letter contained details like how at the time of writing the letter, someone was playing a piano at Darley's and the people were all out in their front porch singing "Sing Nellie Home." He urged Charlie and Louisa to get back to the olden times. Charlie found out that his friend Sam had bought $800 worth of old notes. He estimated that he would have started a hay business back in 1894 Galesburg, as he could not carry on with his original profession as he was a psychiatrist and the profession was not yet in existence in 1894 Galesburg. Thus, we see how the narrator's wishful thinking does indeed stem from an innate desire to live in a world that was unsullied by anxiety, hatred, rage, and war. We also notice the element of time travel and a comparison in the living standards of the modern world and the old world. With that, we come to the end of today's video lesson. We hope this helps you in your revision work. See you soon in the recap and question video lessons.